I bought the coin, my first coin, 1960, for $47. They didn't have a grading system. At that time, they were called BU. I still got the coin. So, where are those coins going? They should be 5,000 right now. They will go to 5,000. Where will they go from there? $7,000 gold? I mean, the worst they can do is go up probably to 8,000. That's the worst they can conceivably do. And that's not figuring in the fact that there's only so many of them. They're not minting them anymore. But it'll go a lot higher than that. And you'll be able to take a coin like that and go out and buy an apartment building in Manhattan. That's the way it's going to be. And some currency, whatever it may be, will be fixed on a gold standard, perhaps with 15 to 30%. Let's say 15% backing. And they're going to have to set the price of gold. Will it be at 7,000 or 10 or 20,000? This is what you're looking at. And incidentally, I don't get paid to do this. Nobody pays me anything. So, please, a word to the wise should be sufficient. Anyway, it was someday. I want to show you some of the swings in the stocks at halftime. And I'll get a printout when all of the numbers are in. But they were phenomenal. Phenomenal. And as you all know, on Saturday, or last week, we recommended a new stock. And it probably went up about 30%. And we'll get into that too. But anyway, the market closed the day firmly because the government was in there. It was up 91 points at 74.87. S&P was up more than that. We'll just leave it that way. Oil was up to 18 cents. 180 point plus on the NASDAQ. There's about 140 on the S&P. But they're going to come back down. This market's going nowhere. I mean, how can anybody buy any stock except gold and silver-related stocks in this market? I mean, you've got to be nuts. I mean, unless you're a professional at catching a hot falling knife. Nobody knows where the bottom is. But I'll tell you one thing, and you can take this to the bank if it's still there. It's going to be a lot lower than where we're at on the Dow now, I'll tell you that. We'll be lucky if the Dow stops at 4,000. And I don't really believe there's a ghost of a chance it's going to stop there. The whole world is going to be in chaos. Financially and economically, socially, politically. They're going to expand the war in the Middle East. They're going to start a selective service draft, and there's going to be revolutions in half the country in the world because they're listening to these broadcasts. These people worldwide, and they know who's doing what to them now. And they're going to remove them one way or the other. And it's going to happen in major countries as well as small countries or smaller countries like Venezuela or Argentina or Kazakhstan or wherever. There's going to be no peace in the world. How can there be when 64.5% of the foreign reserves, on average, of all the countries in the world, are in U.S. dollar-denominated assets, and they're all going into the toilet? I mean, look at the Chinese, 1.6 trillion in dollar-denominated assets. And I'll tell you a little secret. Wen Jiabao, who is the premier of China, guess what he was when he started his career? He was a geologist specializing in gold mining. Now, I've got to ask you, do you think gold is close to his heart? I think so. The Chinese have got to be buyers. So you haven't seen anything yet. And I have one question. And it's the case of Walter Burien, who says that there's a whole bunch of state, local, federal agencies that are hiding under the comprehensive annual financial reports massive ownership in U.S. stocks. And most of the ownership that he speaks of is really in the retirement plans for the people in those entities. And I have yet to be convinced that this is a salient situation. And I know Dr. Stan Monteith has looked deeply into this, and he agrees with me. So I would like to say to Ray, I've answered the question. I really didn't want to because I don't want to be negative, but I don't believe it. And I believe they got the holdings, but they're there for all to see. There's nothing secret about them. And I wish it was otherwise. Melody?
Yes?
Somebody told me that you might have some questions today.
Did somebody tell you that?
A little bird.
A little bird?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I have a few.
The name of the little bird was Sopolote.
Sopolote?
Sopolote.
Yes.
And you know what that means in Spanish?
Yes. Go ahead and tell the listeners.
A vulture.
Speaking of vultures, actually, Saturday, we have close to where I live, there was a llama farm, and there's a cornfield next door, and this doesn't have anything to do with gold, but it was just beautiful. There was a bald eagle, and he was just coming up out of the field, so he wasn't flying very high, so you could get a very good look at him, and he just started circling, and there was a slight breeze that day, and I watched him for about 20 minutes, and, I mean, he was just awesome. I mean, he was just gliding, and the whole time I watched him, I bet he just flapped his wings once or twice, and the whole time he just was gliding up there. It was just absolutely beautiful. He is a beautiful animal, very beautiful bird.
Well, you know, except for the a little bit of difference, they're just like a vulture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way they hunt.
Yeah.
And there's a thing called the California condor.
Yeah.
And that's also a vulture.
Mm-hmm.
And God created them to go clean up the mess.
Yep.
And that's what they do. And most people don't know that. But I think probably if he was up there for 20 minutes, he was probably looking for his toupee.
You think that's what he was looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, bald eagles will lose them, and that's how they become bald eagles.
Oh, okay. Listening to CNN, I heard that there will be a trade war between the USA and Mexico because U.S. has prohibited the Mexican trucks to enter the U.S. territory. Thus, Mexico will put tariffs on all U.S. products. Your comment, please.
It's all in today's International Forecaster, and I hope that party is a subscriber because the details are in there, both in the U.S. as well as the Mexican section. And they're different articles. No, actually, put them all together. That's right. Put the two of them together. But anyway, number one, it's a rotten treaty. Number two, the only people that made any money off it were the American corporate farmers and the large industrial interests in Mexico. Everybody else gets screwed. They destroyed 3/4, if not more, of the Mexican farming community, and you wonder why there's 30 million illegal aliens in the United States. It's because they lost their jobs in the farm. They've never been trained. They came over the border looking to make a living. That's what NAFTA caused. Now, the trucks in Mexico are not in the same kind of condition normally that the trucks are in the United States. And the average age of the long-haul trucks in Mexico is about 14 years old. And if you've been on the road a long time, 14 years, you've got hundreds of thousands of miles on that truck. And and granted they changed the brakes and they changed the engines and so on, but they're not in the kind of condition that American carriers are, and they really shouldn't be allowed on American roads on average. And besides, why should we let them on the road when we've got enough unemployment as it is? And that kicks the Teamsters out of their jobs, and the independent contractors, they're sitting at home because they don't have any work, because it's being taken by Mexican trucks and drivers. I mean, they used to drive them to the border, and that's what they're going to do again. The president is caught in this one. The Teamsters, labor unions, want them to stop at the border.